Do you smell that? Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? Anyways, I hope that wasn't a terrible intro, but this week's Beast of the Week is Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And I think I'm going to read this off because it gives him the best introduction possible, because he's done a ton of great things in his life. He's built himself up from humble beginnings. And hopefully, I picked these Beasts of the Week because I'm like, man, they've gone from like just an average person to building themselves up to an incredible just person, right? And I don't want to, make it more than it really is, but also these people can really inspire others to maybe do something more than they could, possibly. And so I'm going to read this off. As of 2025, the Rock's estimated net worth sits around $800 million. And it's not just from acting. A huge portion of his wealth comes from companies he's built or co-founded over the past decade. Let's walk through the timeline of these ventures. In 2012, Dwayne and his longtime business partner, Dany Garcia, who is apparently his ex-wife, launched $7 Productions. The name comes from a moment earlier in his life when he literally only had $7 in his pocket. Since then, $7 has produced blockbuster films like Jumanji, Hobbs and Shaw, and Black Adam, generating over $4.5 billion in global box office revenue, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure The Rock was like a star in all of those. So it's kind of cool to see that, first of all, is like he was actually generating the movies that he thought that he wanted to put work in and actually doing really, really well. A few years later, in 2016, they expanded that vision with $7 Digital Studios, the online branch that creates social and digital content around those film projects. Then in 2020, The Rock entered the spirits world with Teremana Tequila, one of his most successful ventures yet. It's estimated to be worth between $2 and $3.5 billion, a massive number that puts him in the conversation with some of the biggest beverage entrepreneurs in the world. The same year, he also made headlines by purchasing the bankrupt XFL Football League for $15 million alongside Dany Garcia and Redbird Capital. They've since rebranded and merged with the USFL, creating the United Football League, or UFL, which is now gaining traction as an alternative professional league. In 2021, he kept the momentum going by co-founding Zoa Energy, a clean natural energy drink brand focused on everyday performance. It's valued around $11 million, still growing, and fits right in with his focus on health and wellness. Never had a Zoa, but kind of want to try one. That same year, he launched Project Rock, a partnership with Under Armour that produces training apparel, shoes, and gym gear inspired by his Iron Paradise mindset. No public valuation on that one, but it's powerhouse retail collaboration that's helped redefine Under Armour's brand identity. It's kind of crazy because I remember 2020 and 2021 just being like explosive years where I was like, geez, The Rock is launching like every product known to man. And it was just, it's said right here that, Teremana Tequila, Zoa, and Project Rock all started around 2020, 2021. In 2023, he expanded into men's grooming with a brand called Papatui, focusing on simple, high-performance products for everyday use. It's still new, but it shows how diversified his business portfolio has become. By 2024, the XFL officially merged with the USFL, forming the UFL. And Johnson has also been appointed to the board of the TKO Group Holdings, the parent company of the UFC and WWE. He even gained full ownership of his iconic The Rock trademark, a full circle business moment. Okay. That's a heck of an introduction. The Rock has been making movies and been in wrestling and played football at the U. It's kind of cool. Most people don't know that. He played football at Miami. He was a really good linebacker. I remember one thing just on that was I remember what was it? Like 4 years ago. Yeah, no, like 5 years ago at this point, I was looking at The Rock's Instagram page and he had 250 million followers or something crazy. And he posted a picture of him and his Heisman Trophy winner quarterback when he was at the U. And then I went to the quarterback's Instagram and he had 400 followers. And so it was just so funny to see that a guy who won the Heisman Trophy, which is one of the biggest accolades you can get in college football, only had 400 something followers, and The Rock has 250 million. And it just goes to show you that we live in a different world now. I remember, when I was growing up, I was like, I want to win a Heisman Trophy. I mean, Who wouldn't if you're a football player? And then now I think that's still the case for most like young football players, but like that doesn't mean if you don't do well or if you do well in a sport and you're a Heisman Trophy winner, that doesn't mean you're going to be influencer for the rest of your life or do incredible things. And also, if you don't win a Heisman Trophy, that doesn't mean you can't be a really, really big thing in life. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Played football at the U. He even said in one of his podcasts, I think it was the one with Joe Rogan, which he doesn't, The Rock hasn't done that many podcasts, to be honest. I only watched 2 of them. I watched the one he did with Trevor Noah, which was, I said, it was in November of 2023, and then he did one with The Rock in 2023 as well. I didn't see many other podcasts. If anybody else has seen a lot of podcasts with The Rock, it's kind of interesting because he has some good stories that I love hearing, and we're going to go over those throughout this Beast of the Week podcast. But the first one I listened to with Trevor Noah, he just kind of went like, Trevor Noah was like, hey, I think you're a great guy and I want to have you on and I want to tell people who you are. I want you to tell people who you are because you're just an amazing guy. And so a few things like stood out to me in that interview. It was just kind of fun to hear. He was very political, or at least it seemed like he wasn't relaxed. In the Joe Rogan podcast, he was a little more relaxed. But the things that stood out to me was he gets up really early before his kids get up and he does his workout because he's like, if I wait until the kids get up or if I wait till later in the day, I'm not going to get my workout in. And he is a religious workout person. He actually brings like 40,000 pounds of weights with him to his movie sets when he does movies and builds an entire gym for himself at these movie sets, which leading on to that, he's done over, I think, like 20, 25 movies. And I remember in 2000, like one of the first couple movies that he did, the first one he did was The Mummy Returns, and he was the Scorpion King. And then there was a movie that called The Scorpion King the very next year, I'm assuming because they were like, we should make movies around this guy. And then 2 of the movies that I actually thought were actually pretty good were The Rundown with Stifler and Walking Tall. And The Rundown was really good because The Rock was trying to chase down, I don't know his name, it's like Patrick Harris or something. Neil Patrick Harris? I don't know. Maybe. And he was trying to chase down this guy and bring him back because this guy, the dad of Neil Stifler, I'm going to call him Stifler, wanted him back. Anyways, but he was the guy that went and got him and brought him back. And it was kind of a good movie. And then Walking Tall was it was almost like the exact same movie where he was the guy that, he saved this town from drugs, from the casino that was dealing drugs in the town and making everything worse. And so anyways, he's in a ton of movies, and he brings his gym, the Iron Paradise, to each one of those movie sets so he can get a workout. And I just remember probably 5, 6, 7 years ago seeing he always posted on his Instagram shots of his alarm clock at 4:30 in the morning or 3:30, and it was usually 4:30 or 5 or something like that. But it was when he would wake up. I was always like, man, he just puts in the work. The Rock just, no matter what he's doing, he's putting in the work. And I was like, man, I don't know how he sustains that because I was getting headaches, I think, getting up that early all the time. But it was just he's just a hard worker. And we're going to get into some of the other stuff, why he's such a hard worker. But that's one thing that really draws me to The Rock, is just the effort that he put into life and his work and trying to get better and better. And he actually has had to overcome adversity throughout his life, which is really cool to hear as a normal person, because it gives you a chance to understand that people go through struggles all the time, no matter how big you become as a superstar or how little you are. You go through constant struggles, and it's how you deal with those and how you overcome those that make you who you are. So he gets up early, does his workouts before his kids get up. One of the stories he told that really shaped him was his mom and him got evicted. I'm kind of going through the podcast with Trevor Noah, telling you the highlights. He got evicted with his mom in Hawaii, and he said, I never want to feel this way again, right? And so I think he went and lived with his dad at that point. I could be wrong, but I might be misreading that. But he said when he was really, really little, he remembers his dad waking him up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym and go with him. And he was like, I can't be at the gym. He's like, yeah, you can sit in the corner and you can watch me working out. And which is interesting because I remember going to the gym and the weight or the field house with my dad to work out and do those things. And it was something that has definitely instilled discipline and hard work into me because, not many kids would go to the gym when you're, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, and power cleaning when you're that old. So it was just interesting. And then he told some interesting stories about his dad, why his dad was the way he was. And one of the other stories that he told during the Trevor Noah podcast was that when there were a lot of fires in Hawaii, and him and Oprah actually got together and donated like $10 million and started this, Rebuild Hawaii fund. They both put in, I think, a total of $10 million and did this campaign, and they put this commercial out there that was like, please donate to this thing, Rebuild Hawaii. And he said he got flack for that. People were reaching out to him and saying like, dude, why are you asking me for money? Obviously you have money, you can spend your money, and like, you shouldn't be asking people for money when you know that there are poor people out there. And I was just like, geez, like a guy has helped donate $10 million to help rebuild Hawaii. And he's just asking people, if you have money, you can donate. And he got a lot of flack for that. And it was just like, man, even if you're donating $10 million or something and you're asking people whatever they can do, even if it's just $1, 50 cents or something like that, is helpful, and you still get, people backlash for people saying that just goes to show you that not everyone is going to love what you're doing. And just so you know, you're not going to please everyone. So that's what I took from that, is like, even if you are doing something that you feel like is an unbelievable initiative, some people just are going to not like what you're doing, or not like what you're saying, or not like the initiative. That's something, even though I, in my heart, was like, man, that's incredible that The Rock is doing something like that. But just, that was a story that just made me realize you can give $10 million away and still people will still be mad at you. Even if you like, it's just crazy to me. Then another interesting thing that came up in the Joe Rogan podcast, also in the Trevor Noah one, was that he, in 2022 or 2023, both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party came to him and wanted to see if he wanted to run for president. I don't know when it came out. I have to go see. Let me see. Anyways, he did a movie of his life, and it's fine. Anyways, he did a movie of his life, or maybe it was a TV show. And in that TV show, he actually ran for president, I think, in that TV show. It was like Young Rock or something like that. And I was like, man, The Rock could run for president, and I think he would win. And so I had no idea until I started doing like some research on this to find out that the Republican Party and the Democrat Party came to him and were like, you have enough percentage of people in the country that you could probably win the presidency, which was pretty cool to hear. Obviously, he said he didn't want to do it at the time because his oldest daughter was 22 right now, and his youngest daughters are like 5 and 7 or 2 and 5 or something like that. And he said that when his oldest daughter was their age, he was on the road all the time. He was making movies all the time, and he wasn't there for his older daughter like he wants to be for his younger daughters. And so that was one of the main reasons that he didn't take it. But he did say, which I thought was interesting, that if the people really wanted him to run for president, he would do it. And so who knows? You never know. 2028, maybe 2032, Rock may be running for president. Who knows? But I think that would be pretty cool. Anyways, and then the last thing that Trevor Noah asked him was like, what's your next thing? What do you see as success, or what is it going to be? He's like, I want to build a new mountain, right? Because he definitely has done some incredible things. And so I think he just wants, to build a new thing every year, every 5 years or 10 years, and just build something new to help people. Thought that was pretty cool. Go watch that Trevor Noah podcast. It was just fun to hear some of those stories because I just hadn't heard many of them because I don't think The Rock does many podcasts. So it's kind of cool to hear him tell his stories and get to know him a little better. Now, the Joe Rogan podcast was really, really fun in the first 15 minutes. I'm not kidding. The first 15 minutes, they talked about the workout that they just did essentially with like 3 or 4 other comedians. Shane Gillis was one of them. But they were talking about like, man, that was really fun getting a, long workout in with you guys. And essentially for the first 15 minutes, they were talking about how sometimes, you got to help people get on the train of working out, get in a good regimen, start lifting weights. And when you're on the road, you still got to work out, even if it's doing, 50 push-ups and 50 squats and something like that. And it just goes to show that that's what they care about. Both Joe and The Rock really, really care about their wellness and believe that it is a big contributor to their success, because they think that physically and mentally you should be strong, or you're going to fall off and people are going to surpass you or not going to be as good. And it's just super helpful to hear that that is something that they really both believe in. And they both think like, they both also said like, just do what you can. If you can only do push-ups in your hotel room, do push-ups. If you can only go for a walk, go for a walk. And they talked about how people who are trying to start on that journey of health and wellness, it's very important to, stick at it. Don't just do it for a week and then fall back. Don't do it another week. You got to keep the regimen, and it's helpful to have somebody there with you to help guide you through the tougher times and to help motivate you to keep going. So I thought that was interesting. First 15 minutes. Now, one of the better stories that they told was around 1 hour and 43 minute mark. I think it was 42:30, but 1 hour and 42:30 mark. He started talking about overcoming adversity. And The Rock told the story about when he actually committed to wanting to be a pro wrestler. Okay. So he said that right out of college, he didn't get drafted. He wanted to get drafted. He wanted to go play in the NFL. And then when that didn't happen, he went and played in the Canadian Football League up in Canada. And that would be the Canadian Football League. And he said that he was making about $300 a week. And it was after the first season of playing in the league. The coach said, called him up and said, hey, we want to bring you back for a second season. And he said he was in the apartment. He said, I think he was like 25 years old. And he was in an apartment with his mom and dad at the time. And he said that he whispered on the phone, hey, I appreciate that, but I'm not gonna pursue football anymore. I'm gonna pursue something else. And he said the guy on the other line, or the coach on the other line, was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, good luck. Like started whispering too, because he said his dad was in the room and he didn't want his dad hearing what he had to say. Anyways, he hung up and he wanted to go pursue wrestling. And his dad said, who was that? And he said, it was my football coach up in Canada. He's like, you going to go back and play another season? He's like, no, I told him, I was going to try to do something else. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? And he said, I want to get in the business. He said, his dad was like, what business? He's like, I want to try pro wrestling. And he said that his dad like blew up on him and was like, no, you're not going to do that. Like, you're going to go back up and play football. And, I'm one of the best pro wrestlers there is. And we're in this 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom small apartment. And there's nothing, you can't make it in pro wrestling. Like, there's nothing to come out of it. And The Rock was like, I'm going to try. I really think it's my calling, which, by the way, leads me into another tangent. He said in the podcast with Joe Rogan, he was like, he tried real wrestling when he was in high school. And he said he was a freshman and he tried real wrestling. He was like, real wrestling is the toughest sport anybody could do. He's like, much respect for those guys, which kind of gave me like okay, yeah, nice. But he said he was like not a fan of it. And he was like, I much preferred the like power drivers and pile drivers and headlocks and all these other things as opposed to the actual wrestling, because his dad was a wrestler. His dad was a wrestler from when he was really young. And so he was like, you know what? I don't want to do this real wrestling thing. This kind of sucks. I'm going to go do fake wrestling. Thought that was a good tangent. Anyway, that's what made him want to try to do wrestling. He's like 6'4", like 260, 280 or something crazy. And so he asked his dad if he would be his trainer. And his dad was like, I'm not going to train you. He was like, well, if you're not going to train me, I'm still going to go get training from somebody else. And his dad finally was like, fine, I'll train you. After he trained for a little bit, he reached out to like the assistant director of the WWE or WWF at the time. And the guy, these are funny stories. You need to go watch this portion. If you even just fast forward to just this portion, it's really good. He said he called this guy up and the guy was like, hello. He was like, hey, this is Dwayne Johnson, Rocky Johnson's son. He was like, who? He was like, Rocky Johnson, the wrestler or whatever. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, I want to get in the business. He's like, what effing business? He's like, the wrestling business. He was like, okay. And so he said, I want you to come down and watch me, see if I have any skills. Well, he basically came down and watched The Rock like practice and do all these other things. And he said that the guy told him, he was like, all right, keep training. I'll get in touch with you. And he thought he kind of messed up. He was like, man, did I just blow my shot? Well, apparently that guy called Vince McMahon, who was the CEO and the owner of WWF at the time. And he said, hey man, this kid's the real deal. You need to bring him to like the next big event for the WWF. And so The Rock got pulled into the next big event for the WWF, did really well. and did well enough that basically the Vince McMahon, after he'd done super well, said, hey, we're going to send you down to basically the minors in Tennessee, and we want you to like work on a lot of stuff there. We want you to get really good, and then we'll bring you back up. And so interestingly enough, like The Rock wasn't just like unbelievable in the beginning. He was really good, but they sent him back. Like it wasn't something, some people would have been like, no, like this sucks. Like I want to be the guy right now, which I think for me, I'm always that way. I've always been that way where I'm just like, no, I want to be the guy. And then in every moment in my life, I feel like every stage of my life there, you get pushed back and you go, you know what, you're not ready yet. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it sucks and you don't feel like it's the right thing, but it just goes to show you, like for me, I will say maybe, let me give you a good, this isn't about me. I'll maybe tell a story later, but essentially I'll tell you a story when I was in college, rugby. So when I was a football player at the Air Force Academy, I got cut my sophomore year. And so my junior year, I played rugby. And I was on the B squad for the rugby team. And I was on there with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, mostly freshmen. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but they were like, hey, go play on the freshman squad. And if you do well, we might pull you up. And by the end of the year, I was playing for the varsity squad a little bit, which was fun because, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I knew I wanted to, play a sport. And playing with the freshmen, I actually played probably one of my most fun games ever was at West Point my junior year and playing under the lights. It felt like Friday Night Lights. And it was honestly one of the best rugby moments in my career because it was just so much fun to I was so new that I didn't do smart things every now and then, but I had some big plays and I was just it was just a super fun experience. So I got sent back down to the minors. The Rock got sent back down to the minors and then eventually got pulled back up and won the next main event. Like Vince McMahon said, hey, we're going to let you win because we're going to throw you into the fire. You're either going to swim and you're going to be the best thing ever, or you're going to sink. And he won and people loved him. But then apparently this was a bad boy era where people wanted, people like Stone Cold Steve Austin and stuff like that. And so people started to not like The Rock. And everybody kept chanting Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks. And he ended up losing the belt and tearing his PCL or MCL or something like that. And so he said that when that happened, he actually thought about, he said he was making 150 grand a year doing 250 something shows. So he said after he got hurt, he was actually thinking about going over to Pride to wrestle MMA in Japan or something like that. And because those guys were making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. And eventually he was given another chance to come back after he healed up. But I thought that was kind of interesting. He was ready to go do something else because he was okay, maybe this thing isn't for me. I'm kind of down in the dumps. They're saying Rocky sucks and I'm hurt. He really, I'm sure, was down on himself and feeling maybe this isn't my calling because I'm just getting such bad feedback. Well, he ended up going back to the WWF and made an announcement saying hey, I don't suck. I'm going to work my ass off and this is going to be, you're going to love me, blah, blah, blah. And, I won't, belabor the point anymore, but essentially he was one of the best wrestlers in WWF. Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? Did the eyes, I mean, obviously the people's elbow and all these things. I definitely remember. I didn't watch too much of WWF, but I definitely remember The Rock. But I think that was one of the main themes that I learned from these podcasts and looking into what The Rock has done is he has overcome adversity every step along the way in his life. And I really believe that kind of makes somebody very resilient. And so he has been at the lowest of the lows and he's been at the highest of the highs and he still sounds super humble. And he sounds very, very willing to hear feedback and to really try to understand somebody else's opinion and try to make himself better each day. And I believe I've heard him say it most times when he's making a movie, he's I got in the best shape of my life. I worked my butt off to get in the best shape of my life. And I think he's done a recent movie. I don't know what it's called, but he is a Pride/MMA fighter. And it looks like he's a monster. It's crazy. And I think he's in his 50s. I could be wrong, but let me see. How old is The Rock? Let me check. Gosh, I should have gotten that. I think he's in his 50s. But this guy has just been crushing it for the past, 30 years. And he's 53. So yeah, he's been doing this for 30 years and born in Hayward, California. Okay, cool. May 2nd. 1972. Anybody on May 2nd? My wife was born on May 3rd, so interesting. But go watch these podcasts. It's fun to, also too, probably go watch some of his old movies because it's fun to see the old things that he was in and just learn about somebody that's really built himself up, gotten torn down, and then started stuff that's new too. Like each new venture that he does, I'm sure he's starting kind of from not knowing a lot, obviously, since he does have a huge following. It may be a little easier for him to build up products, but he still has to go through the struggle of trying to build up new ventures. And I think the UFL is going to be a really cool endeavor for him to see if he can build up maybe I don't know if he's going to try to compete with the NFL, but he may try to build the minor leagues for the NFL. We'll see. But that's it. The Rock is a very interesting person, and I felt like he's a really good beast of the week because he's a beast just in general, and I wanted to do it on him. I'll probably do another one at some point, have more information, maybe have The Rock on the podcast at some point, and we can do a real interview to really stamp this thing and maybe do a 3-hour-long podcast with him to really get the nitty-gritty of things that I wasn't able to see and get some stories that maybe weren't heard. There's a lot of good fun stories in those podcasts, and I hope you enjoyed the Beast of the Week. Just know that it doesn't matter where you are in life, you're going to be overcoming adversity in some form or fashion, and it doesn't matter if you're worth $800 million or $8. Try to do your best to embrace the struggle and make yourself better every time you try to overcome something, right? And that's it. Like, I think it gives me motivation to want to continue with the endeavors that I'm doing, and just knowing that The Rock has been through so much and he still was able to overcome those things. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or have any comments or have anybody you want me to do the Beast of the Week on, please feel free to reach out. And thanks for watching. Get after it.